Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Mental Health Matters. I'm your host, HockeyTown John, and we are going to continue the discussion that we started the other night, talking about ADHD. I have gotten some messages, and I believe Keela has as well, from some of you who are interested to know a little bit more about ADHD and how it affects relationships. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit tonight. And I have been going through some resources that I found on a site called helpguide.org, which has got some really good um, information on this. And so, what we're going to do is I'm going to share my screen here. If I can figure it out. And okay, so what we're going to talk about is, some of the difficulties that having a partner with ADHD can present. Um, One of the things that is important to note here at the onset is that this is not a one size fits all solution to any of these issues. Um, Obviously, every relationship is different. This is just a general overview and not to be taken as gospel. I'll give you a couple of good examples. Um, Misha mentioned the other night that in her marriage, both she and her partner have ADHD. That can be a whole nother set of challenges on its own. Um, in my situation, in the relationships that I've been in my life, I have a little bit of different problem as well because I have ADHD, but I also have OCD. So some of these things that are symptomatic in an ADHD relationship may be exactly the opposite with a person like me who has um, OCD, because being obsessive compulsive has its own set of challenges. And we can talk a little bit about that if anybody has a similar situation. But basically, these are assuming that the relationship only has one partner with ADHD and the other partner is quote unquote normal. Um, so, what we're going to talk about first is how the partner with ADHD often feels. And I don't know, hopefully, you guys can read this. Um, Basically, the first sign is different. The brain is often racing, and people with ADHD experience the world in a way that others don't easily understand or relate to. We talked about this a little bit the other night. Um, in my particular case, my brain is always going 100 miles an hour. And the only way that I can have any kind of control over it at all is to throw myself headlong into two, three, four different things at once. It doesn't affect my ability to complete those tasks, but it has to be going. I have to be able to keep up with my brain. Otherwise, I just can't. We talked about focusing on one thing at a time. It's really, really hard. Um, And so that's kind of how I deal with it. And as I discussed before, a lot of people have a tough time understanding that. And um, they think that because you're doing a couple of other things while you're having a conversation with this person, that you're somehow being rude to them and that you're only partially there, present. And it can be very frustrating, especially for the person with ADHD, because I feel like I've spent decades explaining the story over and over and over again. And even to the same people. Um, and they can't wrap their heads around it. It's a tough thing to deal with unless you're inside the mind of somebody who has that. So this is just a way to help you understand the person and also maybe put some tools in your toolbox, as Keela would say, to better deal with it moving forward. Um, another way that the partner can feel is overwhelmed, secretly or overtly, by the constant stress caused by ADHD symptoms. Keeping daily life under control takes much more work than others realize. Even if it's not always apparent, ADHD can make someone feel like they're struggling to keep their head above water. Subordinate to their spouses. Now, this is a good one because I see this in a lot of these cases, including some of my own past relationships. Subordinate to their spouses, or we'll just say partners. Their partners spend a good deal of time correcting them or running the show. The corrections make them feel incompetent and often contribute to a parent child dynamic. Men can describe these interactions as making them feel emasculated. Now, in my particular case, because of the OCD, I think the OCD tends to make me feel a little more in control of the situation. I've never really felt the parent child dynamic in that respect, but I know that there are people out there who do. Um, and that can lead to shame as well. The person with OCD, or I'm sorry, ADHD, I'm mixing my D's here. They often hide a large amount of shame, sometimes compensating with bluster or retreat. So, in other words, either they lash out or they just crawl deeper inside themselves, neither of which is very positive or a good thing. It can also make the person feel unloved and unwanted. Constant reminders from spouses, bosses, and others that they should change reinforce that they are unloved as they are. So you always are going through this sense of there's something wrong with me. I need to change this about myself. No one's ever going to accept me until, I learn to be again more normal and conform to society, which is a much easier said than done prospect. Afraid to fail again. This kind of ties into that as well. As their relationships worsen, the potential of punishment for failure increases. But their inconsistencies resulting from ADHD mean that this partner will fail at some point. Anticipating failure results in reluctance to try. So, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you know how it's going to end, eventually that leads to, well, why even bother? If this is where I'm going to end up anyway, and I'm just going to fail again, why try? And that can be a really tough pill to swallow. And again, this ties into it too, longing to be accepted. One of the strongest emotional desires of those with ADHD is to be loved as they are, in spite of imperfections. Now, I'm not going to get into the weeds about, Maslow's theories or anything like that, but I can tell you that as human beings, we all long to be accepted. We are social creatures by nature. So, of course, everyone wants to be accepted by their tribe, right? But in a person with ADHD, this emotional desire is even more exacerbated because they know or they feel in their hearts that they've already got one foot in a hole. And so it's even tougher for them to gain acceptance than it would be, again, a normal person. I hate using that. That's why I always use it in air quotes because what is normal? The the definition eludes a lot of people. Okay, so now let's switch to how the non-ADHD partner often feels: unwanted or unloved. You're going to see some of these same things just phrased in a different way because The ADHD mind is going 100 miles an hour at all times. There's a lot of confusion going on. You may not always know, um, what kind of things are making sense of it all, I guess is the best way to put it. Sometimes when your brain is going 100 miles an hour, you can't make sense of anything. And to a non ADHD partner, some of these feelings are very similar. They're just not as, maybe not as frantic, maybe not as um, immediate, but they're still there. So a non ADHD partner can often feel unwanted or unloved. Again, the lack of attention is interpreted as lack of interest rather than distraction. One of the most common dreams is to be cherished and to receive the attention from one's spouse that this implies. Now, excuse me, um, lack of interest rather than distraction. And that goes back to what I was saying before, having a phone conversation or having a person, um, sorry, brain fog is real. Thanks, Gila. um, I was going somewhere with this, and then okay. The conversation thing. So we're always talking about um lack of interest versus distraction. It's tough for the average person to understand an ADHD person's mind. And like I say, you constantly find yourself explaining yourself that no, I'm not ignoring you. I am completely here. I'm just also there and there. And, it gets really frustrating for the ADHD person to constantly have to defend themselves and explain themselves. Um, it gets frustrating, but also from the non ADHD partner's perspective, they want to feel loved. They want to feel cherished. They don't want to feel like um, that they're being ignored or that their problems are lower on your to-do list than theirs, if that makes sense. There's also anger and emotional blocks. Anger and resentment permeate many interactions with the ADHD spouse. Sometimes this anger is expressed as disconnection. Oof, another word I don't like. For obvious reasons. In an effort to control angry interactions, some non ADHD spouses try to block their feelings by bottling them up inside. And as we all know, communication is the key to any successful relationship. Once you cut that off, there is no good that can come from that. None. Because you stop talking, they stop talking, and pretty soon you're both just powder kegs ready to blow. And that is not healthy in any type of relationship, much less with somebody with ADHD. Incredibly stressed out. Non ADHD spouses often carry the vast proportion of the family's responsibilities and can never let their guard down. Life could fall apart at any time because of the ADHD spouse's inconsistency. Now, here's another one of those instances where I disagree, um, at least from my own perspective. Because, like I said, I have ADHD, I also have OCD. So I don't find myself having the problems with day to day things. Staying tethered is not a problem for me. I can, do the laundry. I can load and unload the dishwasher. I can cook. I've been known to sew my own clothes. I mean, I was raised by women basically. So, all the things that the average guy doesn't know how to do, I know how to do. And I don't, while I'm easily distracted, um, it doesn't distract me to the point of ignorance. So I don't ignore things that need to be done. I may take a little bit longer to do some things because I'm doing two or three things at once, but I always make it a point, and that's probably the OCD, to make sure that everything is done. Now, where the ADHD rears its ugly head, and Keela will attest to this as well because um, she has a system in place to get over hers, is projects. So, home improvement projects. I have spent thousands in the last year and a half on materials and things we've lived in our house for over 20 years. It's a little dated, it's a little boring. So, we wanted to paint the walls and put in wainscoting, and that was a project. And in order to do that, I decided, oh, well, I think I'm going to drywall skim the walls because the walls in the hallways, the dining room, the living room are textured. And I've never liked it. It's like an orange peel texture. I just don't like it. And so I started watching YouTube videos on drywall skimming. And I thought, wow, this looks really easy. I think I'll give it a try. Went out and spent hundreds of dollars on all the equipment that I needed and, skimmer blades and all that good stuff. And found out that the reason why YouTube videos the do it yourself videos look so easy is because they're heavily edited. You don't see the ugliness. And so when you watch one of those videos and you think, yeah, I could definitely do that. And then you get halfway into it and you realize what a big mistake you've made and how you've stepped in way over your head. Like I said, being raised by women has a lot of advantages, but it also has a lot of disadvantages. So I can't work on your car. I can't build you a deck. And I definitely can't drywall skim. I did my best, people. I swear to you, I did my best. But it is, and the OCD makes it even worse because every little mistake that you make, you have to go back and fix. And it drives people nuts. They're like, can you please finish this? And then while you're trying to figure out the best way to finish that project, you start looking around the house and you're like, oh, you know what? We need new skylights. Yeah, I could probably do that. Let me start watching a YouTube video about it. And the next thing you know, you are going down the rabbit hole. And I can tell you right now, now I finished the major part of the wainscoting, the drywalling, the painting, all that. That's the majority of the house is done. What didn't go quite so well was um, when I was doing like the door trims and the window trims, doing the miter cuts to get them to fit perfectly. Some of them have little gaps and it's annoying. The OCD part of me is like, ugh, I got to fix that. So I have a bunch of little things like that to fix. But since I started that project, I've also started rebuilding our deck and replacing our skylights, which I finally had enough wherewithal to pay somebody to do. So thank God that got done. But I'm fighting two battles. So I have the ADHD, which keeps me from staying locked into the one project. So now we've got three. And the OCD, which will not allow me to continue with the next project because I'm such a perfectionist. It has to be perfect. And I have to keep telling myself it's not going to be perfect. You are not a professional. You watched a couple of YouTube videos. That does not make you a pro. You have to move on and maybe come back to it later. The Yeah, we'll talk about OCD another time, but believe me, having the two in conflict with each other is not a good thing either. It really is not. Um, okay, let's see. Where do we leave off? Okay, so another way that non-HD ADHD partners can feel is incredibly stressed out. Non-ADHD spouses often carry the vast proportion of the family responsibilities and can never let their guard down. Life could fall apart at any time because of the ADHD spouse's inconsistency. Okay, we talked about this. I'm sorry. Ignored and offended. To a non ADHD spouse, it doesn't make sense that the ADHD spouse doesn't act on the non-ADHD partner's experience and advice more often when it's clear what needs to be done. And again, you have to keep going back to try to put yourself in that person's shoes. And it's so hard. It really is. It's almost impossible to know what it feels like to be inside that person's brain. It is a constant tug of war, constant, because you don't want to be like this. None of us want to be like this. All of us want to have a clear mind, be able to complete tasks in a timely manner, and then move on to the next thing. Wouldn't that be great? Sure. But that's not our reality. And to a non ADHD spouse, it can often be very difficult to understand unless you're inside that person's mind. I don't think, honestly, that the majority of non ADHD people would know. Like, if I could give you what I have for 10 minutes, I think it might drive you insane because it's too much. It's sensory overload for the average brain. And it is for us too. And that's why we struggle with anger issues and frustrations and, feeling down on ourselves. And all these things are a result of this because we want to be normal so desperately. But that's not our reality. And so at some point, we come to the realization that, okay, this thing that I have, there is a way that I can control it better. With help, with therapy, with tools, I can be a better me. And that's all that we can strive to be, in the end. And okay, so exhausted and depleted. Again, the non-ADHD spouse carries too many responsibilities and no amount of effort seems to fix the relationship. Again, I don't, maybe to a degree, I could say that, but I think the exhaustion and the depletion, at least from my perspective and others that I know in similar situations, is not that the spouse is exhausted and depleted from all of the responsibilities that they're carrying. It's more from the frustrations of not being able to understand what it's like to live inside this person's head. And, and it goes to the next frustrated. Okay. A non ADHD spouse might feel as if the same issues keep coming back over and over again, a sort of boomerang effect. And that goes back to what I was saying before. Feeling like you're constantly trying to explain yourself. Explain that, no, I'm not ignoring you. I am 100% here in this conversation. But my brain can't function just on that. So that can be, it creates all kinds of frustration for the non ADHD spouse because, again, they don't understand what it's like to be in your head. So here's some of the things that they talk about. Take responsibility for your role. Once you've put yourself in your partner's shoes, it's time to accept responsibility for your role in the relationship. Progress starts once you become aware of your own contributions to the problems you have as a couple. This goes for the non ADHD partner as well. While the ADHD partner's symptoms may trigger an issue, the symptoms alone aren't to blame for the relationship problem. The way the non ADHD partner responds to the bothersome symptom can either open the door for cooperation and compromise or provoke misunderstandings and hurt feelings. If you're the one with ADHD, you're also responsible for the way you react to your partner's concerns. Your reaction can either make your significant other feel validated and heard or disregarded and ignored. Now, here at Mental Health Matters, you guys know that our mission has always been to make people feel validated and heard. So, this is a very important step in the relationship process. And in saying that, there are some tips that we can try. and from both sides, because this is a two-way street. I mean, it's not just well, you don't have ADHD, so you just need to learn how to suck it up, and here are the things that you need to do to make life better. No, that's not how it works. Like I said, just because I have ADHD doesn't mean that I'm not constantly trying to improve myself. Guys, I'm almost 60 years old. I could very well just sit back, rest on my laurels and say, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. And it's number one, it's not a very healthy attitude to have. And number two, if you're in a giving relationship, there has to be give and take. Now, I'll be constantly trying to improve myself until the day I die. And I think most of us can say the same thing. We're never going to be the best version of ourselves that we can be, but we can strive for that. And if you have those tools, see, Keela likes to say tools in your tool bag. I like to say if you have that club in your bag, because I'm a man, so it's got to be a golf reference, but it all amounts to the same thing. And the tools that I need for this relationship are not going to be the same as the tools that my partner needs. And so this is actually a pretty good thing. So the first are tips for the non ADHD partner. Number one, you can't control your spouse, but you can control your own actions. Put an immediate stop to verbal attacks and nagging. Neither gets results. And they don't. It just creates more frustration, more anger, more resentment. Number two, encourage your partner when they make progress and acknowledge achievements and efforts. Even if it's a little thing, you know, that little thing to me could be a huge thing. And so it's important to acknowledge those things when there is progress being made. Three, when possible, try to focus on your partner's intentions rather than what they actually do. They may lose concentration when listening to you, for example, but that doesn't mean they don't care about what you have to say. And again, all roads lead back to that, having to explain yourself over and over and over again. Once you start to understand that my brain doesn't work like yours, you can sort of start to find workarounds. You know what I mean? Um, it doesn't have to be you're this way and I'm this way, and we're just never going to see eye to eye. Because if you want a relationship to work, that's not a very positive attitude to have. So you need those tools. Stop trying to parent your partner. It is destructive to your relationship and demotivating to your spouse. Now, again, I don't have a lot of experience in that regard. People don't usually try to parent me, and like I said, the OCD kind of prevents um, that from happening because I just my OCD won't allow it to happen. So yeah, so it doesn't really apply to me, but some of you may have experienced this, and it can be tough, and it also can be hard because if you're constantly going behind your spouse, finishing the things that they started and didn't finish, of course that's going to create resentment and anger and frustration and all of those things. But there is a way, you can sit down, you can have conversations about this kind of stuff and say, just like in a normal, healthy relationship, this bothers me. What can we do to fix it? Not, why are you such a child? Why can't you finish anything? I mean, it's not positive, and it's not going to get anybody anywhere except hurt. And, it's just your relationship's going to take two steps backwards. So, and here are some tips for the partner with ADHD. Acknowledge the fact that your ADHD symptoms are interfering with your relationship. It's not just a case of your partner being unreasonable. And that's important too, because, like I said earlier, You can't just sit back and say, look, this is who I am. You either accept me for who I am or you don't. This is a whole nother ball game, guys. This is, you have some real problems. And if you can acknowledge that fact and also try to put yourself in your spouse's shoes or your partner's shoes and understand how it must feel for them to try to deal with all of this, you can find a middle ground. You can find ways. I'm telling you, it can be done. You can find ways to compromise and to find middle ground. Um, Explore treatment options. As you learn to manage your symptoms and become more reliable, your partner will ease off. Now, we've talked about this a little bit. Maybe some of you who have ADHD or know people who do are medicated. And I know that it can help some people quite a bit. I have never looked at, I was diagnosed very late in life. I mean, I've only known that I had ADHD for about 5 years now. So, with other medical issues and things that I've had going on, and I've been on, all kinds of medications, much like Keela has, and Keela has even more issues with medications because she's allergic to a lot of things. There's a lot of different pain I mean, there's only certain pain meds that she can take because she's allergic to like sulfa drugs. My daughter was too. So they had to get very creative with what kind of things that they could give her. Because of that, because of the short diagnosis and, other health related issues, I haven't really had time to explore medications. And, to be honest, I don't think that my ADHD is to that level. I can function without medication. I don't now there are some people who they just can't. They can't function day to day without medication of some sort. So that is always an option. If your case is severe, it says if strong emotions derail conversations with your partner, agree in advance that you need to take a time out to calm down and refocus before continuing. And I'll tell you what, guys, that's good advice for any relationship, let alone an ADHD relationship. Um, you should, there's the old saying, never go to bed angry. Kicking the can down the road just doesn't help any relationship, healthy or otherwise, because communication is the key. And if one of you or both of you are angry, you're going to say things you don't mean. And then later on, you have to try to find a way to take those things back. And it's just, it doesn't help anyone. It really doesn't. So that particular pearl of wisdom, I would say, would apply to all of us in one way, shape, or one way, shape, or form. And then the last one is to find ways to spoil your spouse. If your partner feels cared for by you, even in small ways, they will feel less like your parent. And again, that goes back to, something I can't really speak to as far as the parent child dynamic. But again, this is something we should all be doing in our relationships. Find ways to spoil your spouse. We should always do that. If you truly love someone, I mean, truly love someone, even the smallest things can make the biggest difference in a relationship. Even though you think, yeah, it's a silly little thing, it's not going to matter. You'd be surprised. You'd be very surprised. Try it once and let me know how it goes. Put it down in the comments. All right. I'm going to read this one last part and then I'm going to start reading some chats because I'm sure you guys have a lot to say. So stop fighting and start communicating. As you've already seen, communication often breaks down between partners when ADHD is in the mix. One partner feels overburdened, the other feels attacked. They end up fighting each other rather than tackling the issue. And that's what I was saying. To improve communication, do what you can to diffuse emotional volatility. If need be, take time to cool off before discussing an issue. When you have the conversation, listen closely to your partner. Ask yourself what you're really arguing about. What's the deeper issue? And again, this is something, I mean, let's read the example first. A couple fights over dinner being an hour late. The husband, who doesn't have ADHD, is upset over more than his empty stomach. He feels frustrated with his wife's lack of reliability and attention. I work hard to provide for her. Why don't I ever get any TLC? If she cared for me, she'd make more of an effort. The ADHD wife feels overwhelmed and unfairly judged. I have so much to take care of around the house. It's hard for me to keep on top of everything, and I lost track of time. How does that make me a bad wife? Once you identify the real issue, it's much easier to resolve the problem. In this example, the husband would be less upset if he realized that his wife's chronic lateness and disorganization isn't personal. It's a symptom of untreated ADHD. For her part, once the wife understands that a timely dinner makes her husband feel loved and appreciated, she'll be more motivated to make it happen. That's interesting. That's very interesting. And that leads me into another thought, which is, and I don't have the percentages in front of me, but I bet you that they are fairly high. How many people out there do you think have ADHD and are undiagnosed? Like I was. I mean, now that I've been diagnosed, I can tell you I've been this way my whole life. That hasn't changed. It just has a name now. And it has the stigma is gone. And now I have a path forward because it has a name. But when it doesn't have a name, go back into this situation right here. What did I do? Go back into this situation right here that we just talked about, this example that we just read, and take ADHD out of the equation. This is a real problem now, right? But the person with ADHD is still that person. It's just that it might be easier for the two of you to deal with it now that the thing has a name. And I'll be very interested. I'll get back to you guys. I'll either put it in the notes below, or because I really don't think that this is a conversation that can be completely covered in one or two episodes. I honestly believe this is going to be something that we're going to be talking about for a while because it affects a huge number of people out there. And it's a very important topic. So, and I'm sure you guys will agree. I mean, it's something that if we can understand it better, both as the people who have it and the people who care about us, everybody can have those tools to make those relationships better. And I mean, that's ultimately that's what it's all about, right? That's what life is all about. Having the best communication and the best relationships we possibly can to be our best selves. So, all right, I don't want to bounce around too much, but there's just a couple more points I want to make. So, don't bottle up your emotions. Fess up to your feelings no matter how ugly. Get them out in the open where you can work through them as a couple. Now, I'm not going to be telling you guys anything you don't already know. I have had relationships in my life where we never talked about our feelings. And those were very brief and burned out pretty quick. And usually spectacularly, the endings were spectacular and not in a good way. I've also had relationships where we talked and talked and talked and talked and nothing ever changed. Words are just that, words. You can pay something lip service, but you have to, after the conversation is over, you both have to be willing to apply what you've learned in order to better things, right? And then I've also had relationships where we had deep, meaningful conversations where the problems got ended before they became problems. Like one person feels a certain way and they say, "Can we have a discussion?" And you sit down like normal adults, okay? Just normal adults. No emotion, no screaming, no yelling, and just have a conversation about why this bothered me and why, what you said or what you did hurt me. And you fix the problem before it becomes a problem. The longer you keep things inside, the longer you let things fester, the worse it becomes in the end, because eventually you can't hold that in anymore. And those emotions come out, and they come out in not the way you intended them to. And it usually ends very badly. And then you spend days or weeks trying to make up for the horrible thing that you said. When if you had just sat down separately for an hour or two and calmed down and then had the conversation, none of that would have been necessary. So, it all goes back to that, guys. Mental health matters has always been about creating a safe community for people to feel heard and understood, and also to give us the tools to not only better ourselves, but better our relationships, better our friendships, better our marriages, all of that. So that's what this is all about, and will continue to be for, as long as you guys will have us. So, okay. So that's enough babbling. Well, let's go through. And I don't think I had anybody starring comments for me. So I'm going to start myself and just see what we got. Oh, Marie Rossico. Very good. Yeah, I always forget to say that. And Keela hates to say it, but if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below, as Maurice pointed you to. That's the new thing on YouTube. That's how they track engagement. So if you could take the time after the video is over to leave a little comment down below, we sure would appreciate it. All right, let's see here. What do we have? Well, hello, Mish. I knew you were going to be here in some capacity. I wasn't counting on you being on screen, so I'm sorry that you're having a bad day, dear, but I hope things get better for you. Let's see here. Oh, somebody had a comment about my shirt. This is my new You Matter shirt, since it's Mental Health Awareness Month. Thought I would rock the You Matter shirt. I had planned on coming on here with Keela tonight, but Keela is not feeling well, so we are just gonna take the show on the road, as they say. Hello, Nicole Luongo. How are you, dear? Body Illusion, great to have you. Oh, there we go. And hi, you back. Nicole, a lot of women get diagnosed with ADD and ADHD later in life. Oh, there you go. And some men too. I was 55 when I was diagnosed because I just couldn't take it anymore. I knew something was wrong, and I had to have somebody give it a name. Mish says, we are called the Lost Girls, those of us with late diagnosis for neurodivergence. Well, there you go. It's not just me. Nicole says, I don't have this diagnosis, but some family members fit the bill. Where have I heard that one before? Every time somebody asks what's normal, Sheila loves to say that. Normal is the setting on a washer. And that's about it. And Karen Soul says, your profile sounds like my wife, John. Not sure if it's full blown ADHD and OCD, but definitely OCD tendencies. So I don't want to go off on a big tangent about OCD. That is a conversation for another day. But I will say this, the convergence of the two is interesting, especially for me, because some of the really negative things about ADHD can oftentimes be masked by the OCD. And it's something that I'll get into deeper when we have the discussion, which I'm sure that we will. But um, one of the ways that OCD affects me, and I've been told by my therapist that OCD, ADHD, many of these things, and it shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, many of these things are hereditary. And I can tell you that I come from at least 5 generations of alcoholic men. Okay. And the one thing that I can give myself credit for is that I stopped the line. I have never been an alcoholic, never even come close. And the reason for that is because I am mindful of, and I'm not, please don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to equate OCD with alcoholism. I'm just saying that it is a symptom, that alcoholism can be traced in some cases back to obsessive compulsive disorders. It's a tendency. And the reason why I know that it's a tendency is because I, not being an alcoholic myself, but being a child of an abusive alcoholic, was that I got myself into a program called Alateen at a very young age. Um, and what Alateen does is it's a place for kids to go to learn how to understand their alcoholic parent or relative or whatever, and learn how to understand why they are the way they are. And one of the coping mechanisms that I learned in Alateen was that people aren't alcoholics because they want to be. They're alcoholics because of a miswiring in their brain. Now, this is just what I was told. Whether this is, clinical or proven fact, I don't know. And like I said, I was a teenager many, many moons ago, so I'm sure that a lot of this stuff has changed. But that's what I was told. And because of that, and because I knew that I had those obsessive compulsive tendencies myself, I never let myself get into a situation where alcohol could become a crutch for me. Now, I will tell you that I that the OCD does manifest itself in other ways. Okay. I have never been a drug addict. I've never been an alcoholic, but I am, um, how would I describe it? I take collecting to a whole nother level. Let's put it that way. I have a baseball card collection that consists of one player, but I have thousands of baseball cards of this person. Um, when I start collecting something, I go at it in earnest, and I try to make it a hobby that's not particularly expensive, but that's difficult nowadays. I mean, I collect figures and baseball cards and colognes and watches, and yeah, I have a lot of collections. And that can also be a source of tension in a relationship too, because you're spending a lot of money on these things and you're not getting much of a payoff with them. So that can be a thing too. And that's something to be careful and look out for as well. Just because you're not drinking or shooting dope or whatever, it still can be destructive in a lot of ways. It really can, especially if you don't have the money. Uh, Was diagnosed with ADHD a couple years ago. Oh, okay. So in the same boat as me. And before I could get into the strongly suspected autism, my mental health support was ended. Oh, I'm sorry, dear. I register highly on every test I've taken, and AUDHD is very me. Now, I don't recall being tested for being on the spectrum. So, I mean, that could be a possibility with me as well. I'm sorry that your mental health support was ended. That doesn't help, does it? You start to feel better about yourself, and then bam, feel like you're right back to square one. And yes, thank you, Barbie, for posting that. This is not a replacement for therapy or medical health care needs. And we stress that during every show. I can only tell you what my experience has been. I am not a professional therapist. I am not schooled in any of these things. All we can do is talk about our own experiences and try to help each other those ways, because some of us have tried things that I'm sure work. And that's the beauty of having a community, is that we can share our shared experiences and try to find ways to move forward, because not every one of us has access to mental health coverage, or have great insurance or any of those things. So some people might say, well, why are you struggling so much? Just go to a therapist. Well, okay, therapists cost money. And if you don't have good health insurance and you're not rich, I mean, it can be out of reach for a lot of people. Let's see here. Brazy says, in ADHD, any toxic traits for loved ones to be aware of to help keep an understanding, non-argumentative relationship? Tips. Well, I think we went through a lot of them. Managing your emotions is a big one. I think rather than just flying off the handle, try to sit down and have an adult conversation about, this hurt me and this is why, and try to find a middle ground. I mean, you're not going to find the answers right away. A lot of it is trial and error. But if the person who is with you, your partner, truly loves you and truly cares about you, they're going to try to do everything they can to help you. But you also have to try to help yourself. You can't expect them to fix you. It's you know otherwise it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Let's see here. Incarnasol says, my wife's ADHD presents a little differently. She'll often start a sentence and not want to bother to finish it, as her mind is already off thinking two topics ahead. Now, I don't have that problem. Um, I have had relationships where that was an issue, though, where they would just drift off halfway through the sentence. I also have a couple of friends, Kayla McDonald, who do the same thing. But I've also learned to gently steer them back into the conversation. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And, you just have to not get upset about it. Once you understand where a person's coming from and you meet them where they're at. Have you ever heard that one before? We say that one a lot here too. Meeting people where they're at is so important. Don't expect them to come to your level. You have to meet them where they're at, and expect people to meet you where you're at, because we're all on different levels. It'd be great if we weren't, but that's how it is. Um, Here you go. Perfect. Kind of like the algebra teacher in school. You have to fill in the steps to get to the answer. Bingo. I like it. Hello, Kremel. How are you, friend? Who else we got? What's this? Barbie. I am the same. My hubby often asks, has to ask what I'm talking about, and I switch topics sometimes mid-sentence. Yes. And it can be maddening. It really can, but you have to learn to deal with it. You also have to realize that it's almost equally as maddening for the person who's going through it. They're not doing it to mess with your head. They're doing it because that's where they're at. And it can be really frustrating. Let's see. What else we got? Dr. Google, Dr. YouTube. Yeah, exactly. Googleology is not my forte. No, it's AI, Mish. Here's a good one. I know I have never been bored, but I can hear the eye rolling sometimes from others. Mental health is real. Damn Skippy. Marie Rassico says, I can relate to the half-finished house. I have so many unfinished projects aside from half-done things around the house. Yeah. It's really bad for me. And it only gets like that for projects. What's this? Crazy says, you need patience and willingness to understand for it to work. My motto, if you want it to work, it will. If you want it to work, I would modify that a little bit to say, if you want it to work and you're willing to put in the time and the effort, it will. How's that? I'll meet you halfway. Hello, Kim Roy. Welcome. Stacia Flonase. Good to see you, dear. Let's see. Yes, I do, kiddo. Yes, I do. You're 8 years younger than me. You're a kid. Brazy question. What's your thoughts on meds? We talked about it a little bit. Like I said, I think a lot of it depends on when you got your diagnosis and the severity. Well, I don't like that word severity. The level of ADHD that you have, or if you have any other underlying things going on. If it affects your life in a negative way and keeps you from moving forward with a relationship, with your day to day, then I say definitely talk to a therapist, talk to your primary physician, talk to anybody that will listen to you about what's going on. I always suggest therapy before medication. And for anything, any kind of medication that's related to the brain or the way your brain operates, I feel much more comfortable with that coming from a therapist than necessarily a family doctor. But, not everybody has access to all those things. So I say talk to anybody who will listen about your issues and let them determine whether or not medication can benefit you. Because I think some people truly, truly benefit from it and can't function on the day to day without it. So, but it's a case by case. Stacia Flonase says, I turned 60 in January and everyone guesses me 15 to 20 years younger, so I'm kid to them. Hey, there are worse things to be, Stacia, than looking younger. Some of us have that affliction. I mean, when I tell people I'm going to be 60, they tell me I'm crazy, but I'm not. I'm not. I know I don't dye my hair. I've been accused of that too. I don't. I have grays. You can see them. Well, they look a little more pronounced with the white light on, but I assure you I'm almost 60. Barbie says she's also allergic to sulfa drugs. Seems to be a common allergy. Until I had my daughter, I did not know that there was such a thing. Now, Tony Hoban says, I have to take sulfa because I can't take penicillin. Yeah, some people have the exact opposite problem. They're allergic to penicillin. Yes. So Marie is telling me what I was trying to say earlier. Your OCD might help to make up for some of the ADHD traits. And I think they do. I really do. Excuse me. Tony says, my ADHD is not as severe as it was when I was younger. I still medicate, but much lower dose. Good for you. That's good. Um, I read somewhere that don't go to bed angry doesn't have to mean the issue is resolved, just that you agree to continue to talk about it the next day. Call a truce, so to speak. Yes, absolutely, Marie. Um, I don't think anybody expects, a big blow up fight to be resolved in a couple of minutes. Sometimes they do require a part two or a part three. But yeah, just agreeing to not be angry tonight. That's what it's all about. Because otherwise it just festers in both your minds. And yeah, the subsequent conversations aren't usually as positive. Nicole says probably a lot more people than we think are undiagnosed. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. 100%. And like I said, I will look up that percentage and get back to you guys because I have a feeling it's a lot higher than any of us think. Let's see. Incarnasoul says, my wife and I trade off cooking responsibilities based on when she has to go into the office. On weekends, we co-cook, but her sensitive nose and palate is in charge of fine-tuning spices. That's good. At least one of you has it. That's really good. Co-cooking. I might have to try that sometime. Sounds interesting. Tony says, when you have it, it's easier to spot others with it. Yeah. I mean, you can spot the signs, but obviously we don't want to diagnose others. But yeah, I get that. Let's see what else we have here. Incarnasoul says, Stacia, it's funny how much more I enjoy doing dishes. Drudgery as a kid is solace from chaos as an adult. Very good. I like that a lot. Kim Roy loves for foster kids. I hate cooking except 2 to 3 things. But my OCD husband not only wants me to cook, but to plan meals each day of the next 2 to 3 weeks. Good Lord. Including meals that require prepping day before. Yikes. Oh, that must be tough, Kim. Hello, TK. Didn't see you there. And to everyone I missed, love that I found so many of my scattered family. We all find our way back, don't we? Kim says meals that take 4 hours. That's what restaurants are for. I hear you, sister. I hear you. Oh, let's see here. Oh, Kermel is channeling his inner Sting. If you love somebody, set them free. Free, set them free. Yes, TK has been inviting people. I can spend days in the kitchen, my profession, hobby, and love. Invitations still stand. Somebody's going to take you up on that pretty soon. Misha says it is for me too. Just make sure to remind that OCD is not just about perfection. It is so much more frustrating and can be very debilitating in other ways. Yeah, exactly, Mish. I take the example of doing the drywall skimming. It looked so easy. And I even tried a couple of test spots because the people that did it in the YouTube videos did it. I mean, they made it look flawless. There was not a bump, not a ripple, not a nothing. And I watched those, the OCD in me made me watch the same video 20, 30 times just to make sure that I had it perfect, that I had it right. And the second that I got up on that wall and started doing it, I could see immediately. And then I would go over it. And then I would go over it again. And then I would go over it again. And then I would let it dry. And then I would find all the imperfections and I would go over it again and again and again. And so this project that should have taken me a weekend ended up taking me 3 months of weekends. So yeah, it can definitely, and what it did, it paralyzed me. I could not move on to the next step until I had made this perfect. And I still, oh my God, I go out there and I look at it sometimes and I have to look away. I just can't. I just can't. Aria, so proud of that, John. Break the cycle. I'm assuming she's talking about the alcoholism. Yes. Yes. And yes, it was mostly about the dynamic. I didn't want to go from an abusive family to raise an abusive family of my own. I was not going to do that. TK says, John, my hubby has self-proclaimed himself as my therapist, OCD, because I love everything in order from fridge to closets, etc. Mine doesn't manifest itself that way, which is kind of funny because I know OCD people who their socks have to be a certain way in the drawer. They have to be folded and not, rolled and things like that. I don't have that problem. I really don't. Certain things. Now, I'm a firm believer in feng shui, which means everything at an angle that makes sense. Nothing cocked sideways or anything like that. That bothers me. If I see a picture hanging on the wall and it's the least bit crooked, I have to fix it. I've been known to, I went to a new doctor recently, a urologist, and I walked in and he had 2 pictures and they were, I'll show you my hands. If I can find the damn camera, they should have been like this, but instead they were like this. And actually one was this way and one was this way. And I'm exaggerating a bit, but I sat there for 2 minutes staring at them and I got up and fixed them because I just couldn't. I couldn't. It was going to drive me insane. So yeah, it can manifest itself in different ways. Some people are to the extreme. Others are just a little bit wacky. And with me, it's mostly about collecting things. Okay, TK says, my mother is a pill-popping alcoholic. I know that has triggered my sense of full fridge, labels out, everything in rows, shirts in color, and sleeve length. Everything coordinated equals control. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that. It makes us feel more in control of our situations. That's very true. Let's see here. Stacia says, I am addicted to sugar. I still find myself sneaking it in after giving it up almost 6 years ago. Ooh. Yes, I am a carb junkie too. And it will be my downfall. A voice down under. Welcome. Many adults are wrongly diagnosed with ADHD and it's trauma. Trauma presents very much like ADHD in a lot of cases. That's interesting. Thanks for that. I should talk to my therapist about that. Because I was diagnosed before I started going to therapy. What? Good old Detroit. Not as bad as Atlanta, but close. Hey, Stacia. I'm from Detroit. Born and raised. But you're right. All the major cities we can say that about. Any news from Keela? Yeah, I talked to Keela before the live. She actually asked me if I would be willing to do this solo, and hopefully I didn't bore you guys too badly, but she had an appointment today and they were pressing and poking and pushing, and so she's kind of sore from that. And she said she broke a tooth. Ooh, I don't know how she did that, and hopefully it's not too bad, but let's all send Keela lots of love. Okay. So Marie says at Brazy, I think they can. As you learn to manage the different aspects, the symptoms can seem less. How you feel physically, the situation, the people around you can all affect you. Absolutely. Many, many factors at play, not just the disorder itself. Voice Down Under says, it would be boring if we were all the same. Oh, yes, it would. I say that a lot. TK says, hubby, let me do my things. I send him away to clean, cook, etc. And he's not complaining. He also reaps the benefits, but stops me when I'm doing 24 hours nonstop work. That's true. Oh. Okay. I was misunderstanding. I thought you were saying that you're OCD and your husband is ADHD. That would be a fun combination. Stacia says, I'm going to wear in May, we wear green for mental health awareness again this Friday. I need a Stop the Stigma shirt, the right one though. Believe it or not, Stacia, Amazon is a good resource for stuff like that. I found so many of those shirts, including this one, and they're all in that pretty green. And there's one for just about everything, and most of them are in stock. So check them out, Amazon. Aria, that's not true. I only call people younger than me, kiddo, which is most of you. All right, you got me. And I know Keela's mentioned this before, but I absolutely we both do. We love all the conversations that happen in the chat. You guys have grown into such a beautiful community of people who genuinely care about each other. And that just warms our hearts. Let's see. I think we're getting close to the bottom. If anybody's got any questions or comments, toss them up there, and I will make sure that I catch you. Stacia Brazy, yes, I can't figure out how I married 30 years to someone who is still 29. The old frozen birthday trick. I know it well. Mish says, I feel all of my issues are exacerbated due to continued trauma. Oh, continued trauma. Well, I do think that some of my issues are exacerbated by previous trauma. So that's why I was fascinated by that comment earlier. And I will bring that up with my therapist because I'm curious what her thoughts are on that. Stacia says, I'm here as a shoulder for those who need it. I learned so much from live chats. The education is amazing, and I will never tire of learning. Thank you, Stacia. You are a kind soul. So many of you also are. That's what makes this community great. I need to read this one. Incarnasoul, I totally understand. I'm diagnosed hubby with Peter Pan syndrome. He's more like 18, although he turned 69 last month. I'm close to 55, and I'm the mature and cynical one. Well, you're the woman. It's just natural, right? That's how it's supposed to be. My biker king is just so unbothered by his constant need to check in with me. I should appreciate it, but I'm bad about getting interrupted nowadays and an only child who still needs her quiet. Well, there's worse things to have than a doting husband, Mish, but I get it. It can be, especially if you're really deep in thought about something, it can really be jarring. Brazy says she Googled it quick and it all said 25% are undiagnosed. Think about that for a second. 25, 1 in 4 people out there have ADHD and don't even know it. Deb, great to see you. It's important that your therapist psychiatrist is fully aware of anything your family doctor has given you to take. Oh, anything your family doctor has given you to take. Back in the day, I took 2 meds from 2 different doctors and it ended very bad. Oh, sorry to hear that. Mish says, oh my God, I remember when I used to be so anal about my calendars, lists, menus, etc. Oh, I have never met a checklist or a spreadsheet I didn't like, Mish. Those of you who know. Arya says the same thing. Me too, Mish. Not an only child, but I feel that way about being interrupted. Yeah. When you're deep, especially if you have ADHD, when you're deep inside your own head, man, it can be really jarring and really sometimes you lash out when a person interrupts you and they might only be wanting to come in and just kiss you on the cheek and say hi, but it can really turn into a thing. Yeah, sometimes you got to be very careful how you approach it. Stacia says, I found a turtle while mowing. I moved him closer to the swamp inside the cow fence. When I checked back, it was gone. Ooh. Might have been a snack. Wait. Cows are vegetarians. Okay, probably wasn't a snack. Brazy says, I like cleaning, not cooking. Okay. So you're only half perfect. Kim says, but if it takes me longer than 40 minutes to prep a meal, I'm eating out. I hear you, sister. Ugh, I can only stand so much. All right. Are you posted up the link to the Mental Health Matters Facebook group? If you're not already a member, I encourage you to go over there and give it a like. We have a lot of good groups in there. You know, it doesn't always end after the video. We have a lot of good discussion groups on the Facebook page. And if anybody needs additional help afterwards, there's always somebody there that's willing to talk. We may not have all the answers, but we're definitely there to listen. Mish says, why do you think I wish someone would have told me not to edit videos? I have terabytes of almost finished vids now. Almost being the optimal word there. Oh, Brazy likes the feng shui. Okay. That'll work. Mish says, patterns for me and chaos kills me, the hubster. Opposite. I do not wonder why I struggle with my environment, but I do struggle. I'm sorry, Mish. Yeah. TK, that's TK says that's exactly what I'm doing. Therefore, I do everything myself, everything in order, even the books in the bookshelf. One of the bad things about being OCD is no one can do it right. At least in my mind. Nobody can do it the way I want it done. So oftentimes that will force me to push them aside and say, just let me do it. It's easier for me to do it because I know exactly what I want. Because it would take longer for me to explain it than it does to do it. And I think Mish will probably attest to this as well. That often is how we get ourselves way over our head as far as responsibilities. we find ourselves doing 50 things when we can only successfully complete about 5. And that creates more frustration, and yeah, it just spirals from there. Let's see here. Oh, thank you, Mish. That's sweet. Aria, how could we be bored with the radio voice? All right, you guys. You're all just trying to see how many shades of red I can change. I'm not Keela. I don't change that to that beet red. I do have a little color, though. Believe it or not, I went out in the sun. My pasty butt, I spent about an hour in the sun the other day, and I was a lot redder than I am right now, which is good. Not quite as paper thin as our dear friend Aria, but pretty close. Tony says, this was a great stream for me, John. Thanks. Thank you, Tony. I'm glad you liked it. TK, no, my hubby is spoiled, ruined by my structure, but he enjoys it, and I get to do things my way. See, you found a way to make it work, and that's what matters. Mish says, had so much fun the other night in the meet. John, you all had me cracking up. That was pretty funny. We had a Google Meet after our live, after we finished the show, and we found that in Google Meet, you don't have to just sit there as yourself. You can create characters. So it started out with Ben putting a animated cat on his head that had everybody cracking up. And then one by one, we all changed into little avatars. I became a dinosaur. Ben became a rabbit. Brazy at one point was a strawberry and a little piglet. And it was fun. We had a lot of fun. Oh, Facebook Mom Marie. Oh, no, I got kiddoed. Oh, yes, there are 1 or 2 of you that are older than me, but not many. I am generally the senior member of the staff. Oh, yes, Carmel, I did know you were older than me. But only because you told me. You look younger. Let's see. All right, Mish, do we really have to get into the details? Big head, little arms with a mohawk. It wasn't a mohawk. I keep telling you it wasn't a mohawk. They were feathers. Yes, Aria was laughing too. It was a lot of fun. The only one that was missing was Marie. I would have loved for her to have been there. I have never seen her laugh or heard her laugh, and I need to do that. Although we are having a meetup in Ontario on the 6th of June. If any of our Canadian friends are in here, you get the opportunity to meet me. And who's all going? Brazy, hopefully Marie, and Barbie, I think, so far. So if anybody's interested, we're going to meet up. I have friends in Mississauga who I'm going to go visit. And I thought, hey, why don't we have a lunch meetup somewhere? So we're trying to find a place to do that. And anybody who's interested in joining us, leave a comment down below and we'll get back to you. I think I'm almost caught up there. And Marie, I was told there'd be no spreadsheets. There aren't. They're close, but I don't have to show them. Oh, Deb says, I would rather clean all day than cook a meal. Oh, come on. What is it? You know what that means, guys? If you don't already know how to cook, learn. Yes, I agree with this, Marie. Marie is a former nurse, so she knows all about this stuff, but every doctor should ask about all the meds you take before prescribing more. I'm not sure what kind of system you guys have in Canada or in other places, but here in Michigan, we have something called My Chart, And it is the most wonderful tool ever invented. I don't know how I went my whole life without it. All of your doctors are tied together in one space, all your medications, everything, all in one location. So your primary doctor, your specialists, everybody is in there and they know all of your medical history, all of your medication history, everything you're currently taking, everything you've been treated for previously. And, back in the day when you went to a specialist, you would have to explain your whole medical history to them. And then if you went to another doctor, again, you would have to do it. And it could get very tedious and, things slip through the cracks, like Deb was saying, being on two different medications from two different doctors and neither of them realizing it. I mean, it can cause some real issues. People die all the time from medicine interactions. It's a real thing, and it's something that I'm obsessed with too. We were talking about this the other night. I know that your pharmacist is supposed to tell you about any potential drug interactions, but I have since Heath Ledger died, I have such a paranoia about mixing the wrong cocktail of things together that I am relentless. Someone said to me the other day, the packet that you get with your prescriptions that you're supposed to read, who reads that? This guy, because I'm just so paranoid. I'm not going to die because I made a silly mistake and mixed two things together. It shouldn't be. Um, Okay, Barbie says, I am OCD, ADHD, a perfectionist, and a few other things. No one can do my housework the way I want it. See, she knows exactly what I'm talking about. Mm. All right, all right. Talk crazy off the ledge. Her OCD's getting to her. Yeah, see. I was only out for 10 minutes and my skin is fried. Yeah, she sent us a picture. Wow. I mean, it would have taken me 2 hours in the sun to look like that. She's our little China doll. Okay. TK says, but I complete everything. I even renovated my new house myself. And there are days I can barely walk because of my crushed leg, but I do it anyway, my way. God love you, TK. Uh, yeah, honest to God, that my chart is a godsend. It really is. Mish. Imagine that voice calling the rest of us kiddos with a dinosaur face and body. Oh, yeah, classic. Maybe Barbie will join us soon as well. And I would really love it for all of us. Yeah. Barbie, you would have a lot of fun. You and Marie missed a really good time the other night. Hopefully, we can do it at a time when you guys can both join us because that was an absolute blast. And I tell you what, guys, some of this stuff can be pretty heavy. And, some of you know and some of you don't know what goes on behind the scenes as well. I mean, in the Facebook group, there are a lot of conversations that take place, and it's heavy stuff. And every once in a while, we all just need to blow off steam, and it was wonderful, wonderful time. We had a really good time. Um, Nicole says, I wish I was in Canada so I could celebrate my birthday on June 9th with you nuts. Aw, Nicole. Oh, guys. I thought she was saying nuts. I like the nuts anyway. I'm keeping it. Aria says, oh, this is a good one. Aria says, I haven't cooked since 2005 and it was a disaster. There's a reason I'm banned. Oh, we love you, Aria. Um, Heather Mack, hello, dear. Checking in to give support. Take care, y'all, and enjoy The Voice. My goodness. Lori Driscoll. I used to read that packet too, John. What packet? Oh, Marie says we have my chart here too. There are other programs like it as well. Different hospitals have different ones. Okay. Now I have I'm part of my primary physician and my gastro doctor are on one hospital network, and then the surgeon who did my surgery and the urologist are in another hospital group, but my chart even combines those two. So I can flip from hospital to hospital, but they're all there in my chart. So that's really cool. Really cool. Colonel Soul says, I also use a meds app which tracks interactions. Not a bad idea. I think it's more paranoia than anything else, but I just don't. I don't want to be remembered as the guy who mixed Tylenol and Tums and died from it. It's not the way I want to go. Yeah, Mish agrees. So much more happens behind the curtains, and she can speak to that better than anybody because she is probably one of the most dedicated advocates we have. And I don't know how she juggles everything. Yeah, she's something else. Okay, I wasn't going to say that, Aria, but I'm glad you did. Yes, I finally got to see what Aria looks like. I finally got to hear her beautiful voice, and it was worth every minute. Marie says, everyone else here was already asleep, not sure where I could go, so I wouldn't wake them, just talking little. Oh, God, Marie, you'd have had the whole house up. There's no way. Yes. Yes, she did write a poem called Perfectly Imperfect. And if you want to read it, buy the book. Amazon.com. And the book, it's like I was prepared for you or something, Nicole. The book is called Naked Desires by our own Nicole Luongo and is available in hardcover or softback if you are so inclined on Amazon. Check it out. It's a really good read. Mish. But he missed you letting your hair down, though. Oh, you let your hair down after I left? You suck. I was teasing her about her top knot because she had her hair up in a bun. Deb says, my psychiatrist is in Michigan, and I was able to keep seeing him after moving to Missouri, but my family doctor uses a different system and can't see the meds he gives me. I'm wiser now and told them. Oh, that's cool. Wait a minute. You used to live in Michigan, Deb? Did I know that about you? I don't remember that. She's a Michigan girl. Love it. Stacia says, I'm having a blast here tonight. Just us kids being kids. Well, I don't know about that, but trying to keep it loose on a Monday. Oh, I'm sorry, Nicole. Here I am pimping your book, and it's not even in that book. But for an extra charge, if you buy the book, she'll include that poem and autograph it for you. Oh. I don't drop many balls all the time. You don't. You really don't. You're amazing. You're like a person with 6 arms juggling. I would be lost without you all too. Oh, shush. I think we know that's not true. You keep this place afloat in many ways that people don't even realize. There you go. Aria says it best. Misha is an amazing and beautiful soul. All right, not everybody can hang until 4 a.m. I'm getting tired of you guys calling me an old man, telling me I can't hang just because I don't want to stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning. What? Brazy's a poet and we didn't know it? I wrote a poem called Just Me, Too Deep. Well, it's a poem, Brazy, so there's no such thing as too deep. Ah, look at Mish. See? You see what I mean? Right on it. That'll take you right to Nicole's page for her book. And seriously, I don't recommend things unless I have read them or enjoyed them myself. I'm not one of those people. And it is truly a good read. I think you'll all enjoy it a lot. I sure did, and I'm a guy. Let's see here. There you go. TK says when the stream ends, I'm going straight to Amazon. Awesome. Missing comma. I meant I do drop balls all the time. Wait, Stacia's a Michigan girl too? Do you still live here? I do seem to remember a lot of Michigan people from our previous YouTube pages, but I wasn't aware there were so many in here. TK says, I'm having my morning coffee with you. Mish says, our Brazy has things to say, and I am always ready to hear them. Well, yeah, I think I am too. Brazy says, don't dare me. Nicole says, you all are amazing. I agree, Nicole. This is a beautiful group of people we have. Oh my God. Even Marie Rassico has cousins in Michigan. Oh, good Lord. All right, wait a second. Deb says, born and raised in Michigan, moved to Missouri 4 years ago. Go Wings. Well, why are you in Missouri of all places, Deb? Come back. Oh, Missouri's pretty too, though. I'm just kidding. All right, it looks like I'm all caught up. Stacia says, not too far from Alma. I'll have to look that up on a map, Stacia. I don't know where that's at. I'm assuming that's somewhere in the middle of the state, but I could be wrong. Kooky. Mish says, I have friends in Michigan, tons of them, and leave off the GAN, and you've got my name. Huh? Leave off the GAN. Well, I know of one really, really good friend you have in Michigan. I don't know about all the other ones, though. All right. Well, I don't know how long we've been going, but it feels like a long time. Oh, 9:39, an hour and 40 minutes. That would, oh, wait a second. Stacia says, I work in Alma and I work with people who have ADHD, OCD, BPD. Well, there you go. We have to figure out where Stacia's at. Stacia probably has some really good insights too. You should message us, Stacia. If you'd ever be interested in going live with us or offering us some good things to talk about. Because like I said, this discussion, I mean, this is episode 2, and I honestly think we've barely scratched the surface on ADHD. There's so many other things. Mish says, needed this tonight. By the way, thank you, John Motz in chat. You are absolutely welcome, Mish. Deb says, I go back to Michigan every summer. I'll be there this July. Can't wait. Oh. I'd love to meet you, Deb, if you're up for it. That'd be sweet. We have a couple of people here. I know Jen Marie is probably less than an hour from me. I know Mac lives in the western part of the state, but I mean, that's like an hour and a half drive from where I'm at. We could always find a central place to meet. That'd be great. I don't know about July, though. I'm not a hot weather kind of guy, but I have been trimming down and losing weight, and maybe I'll feel differently about the sun this summer. Usually I just stay in my nice air conditioned house, but who knows? I may venture out. Stacia says, I don't have a computer. I wish I could afford one, but okay. Aria says she might be driving back. Ooh. All right, Barbie, you have a wonderful night too. It's been great chatting with you all. Oh, had to move there for the hubby's job. Okay, well, gotta do what you gotta do. That's right. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the show. Send some love to Keela. We all hope she feels better soon. But you guys know this is Mental Health Awareness Month, so we want to make sure we are doing a show a night, or at least trying to. So thanks everybody for being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below so you can support the channel. And I hope you all have a beautiful night. Take care.